We're delighted to have with us John Nelson, one of our board members at the High Plains Western Heritage Center. John, nice to have you with us.
Thank you.
Now, you're no newcomer to South Dakota. You've been around South Dakota for a long time. But before we get into this, I'd like to find out where in South Dakota you came from, what your background is.
Well, my mailing address would be Letcher. I run around with the kids in Woonsocket, and I went to high school in Mount Vernon. And I would have graduated in 1968. And from that point, I went on to the University of South Dakota and majored in biology and chemistry and psychology.
Woonsocket, you must have had some of those good melons over there.
Oh, we had great melons.
Yeah.
And back there, we only ate the heart.
John, I know that you grew up, you told me, on a farm. Tell me a little bit about your family heritage.
Well, my grandparents, Fred and Minnie Nelson, they met on one of their return trips to Sweden, but they moved to America in about 1904, 1906. And they settled in a little community called Cuthbert, which is a ghost town. Now it's Woonsocket, Letcher. And they had two children, my dad and my aunt, Rosalind. And my dad, Ted, would have raised 5 children on the farm. And we learned farming etiquette.
Farming etiquette. Yeah. Now that's an interesting phrase. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
It can be a broad statement. Well, anything goes, you know. If the cow kicks the bucket or puts her foot in the bucket, you know, you just throw it away and start again. And you know that you're going to be drinking that same milk at dinner, but that's part of the etiquette.
Now, John, I know that you and I, as youngsters, shared an interest in forestry. But you didn't exactly follow that path to become a forest ranger, did you?
No, I went to the wrong university, as I've learned it after 4 years, and I was more into pre-medicine healthcare, and so I lost my opportunity to be a forest ranger. And I tell them now, as they come in across the street, because their office is across the street from me, and I've told them they've got my job. But I like mine on a day where it's 100 degrees outside. I tell them I'm glad my mommy made me go to school.
When you went through school and you finished your schooling, actually, I don't know you were completely finished, you went to Minnesota.
In '72, I went to Northwestern College of Chiropractic, and after 4 years, graduated with a doctorate degree and moved to Spearfish. And it's been a beautiful community, and I've watched it grow.
You found heaven on earth, and you haven't left.
Well, it's starting to get a little crowded now. When I tell people that when I moved to town in '76, there were only 3 stoplights and only 3 medical doctors. But things have changed.
Well, John, I know you still have a little hand in working as a chiropractor, but your son, one of your 2 sons, has taken over the business.
I'm very blessed to have my son and his wife join me in the chiropractic clinic, and they let me work Tuesdays and Saturday mornings now. And so I still get my feel of the patient, I should say, the feel of my profession, and it's glad to be on that end. I see the end is in sight.
Now that's your son Bjorn, right?
Bjorn. And I have another son, Hans, who works with Black Hills State University in the administrative level.
Okay.
And so I'm very blessed to have both of them in town, and they can help me, and I can help them with all the little projects.
Now you've never gotten away completely from life on the farm and ranch, and you still have a few head of cattle, I know. But you also spend a lot of time, over the years, you've spent a lot of time at rodeos around here. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing there.
Some years ago, and I would say maybe '92, I was at a rodeo in Deadwood, and Corco Rodeos were the stock contractors, and I happened to know one of the pickup men, and he asked me as he was leaning off his horse onto a telephone pole, he says, "What are you doing at break?" And I said, "Well, I'll be here." He says, "Meet me in the tack wagon." And so after he got done with his pickup duty, I met him in the tack room, and I devised a table out of a bale of hay and a sack of feed, and I laid him on top of him and gave him his adjustment there at the rodeo. And before I was done, I treated 10 of the Corco rodeo staff, including the clown. And then Mrs. Corco was to tell me that Wrangler was sponsoring a chiropractic program that would be interesting for me, and so I did that. And so in '93, I got, you don't get certified, but you get some education where you can do arena work at a rodeo. And so I've been doing that at the local rodeos. It started in St. Ange, but now it's Belle Fourche, Deadwood, and Hewlett, Wyoming.
So you keep busy still doing that very same
Yep,
thing.
enjoy it, because I enjoy watching the rodeo at Ground Zero.
How did you first come to become acquainted with High Plains Western Heritage Center?
I had a patient, Peggy Abel, she was a former director, and she saw my interest in rodeo and Western from my decor in the office, and so she was begging me that you got to be on that board of directors. I said, I don't have time to waste every Tuesday morning, wherever it was, sitting here. I got work to do. But when my son joined me, then I had time to join the museum board of directors, and it's been a good 10-year for me here.
I know you say that you used to do some ski trips from time to time. I suppose some of your other activities are maybe edging that out a little bit, but hobbies other than your interest in history and museums?
Well, sometimes I'm confused with work and hobby, but yes, for about 20 years I would take horses to the Bighorns and ride that Cloud Peak Wilderness. And that was a great experience to enjoy the Western life at the time. We would do hunting back on my parents' farm, pheasant hunting, and then we'd also have, I developed a skiing habit. And so I taught my boys how to ski when Hans was 2.5 years old when I had him on skis, and the other one was 3. And they've developed a great hobby of skiing now.
John, of your many interests, and you have an obvious interest in the High Plains Western Heritage Center, is there an aspect to it that you find most intriguing and exciting above the others? You hang out at rodeos. We're in the rodeo room. Do you have a soft place in your heart? Maybe that's the wrong expression to use, but for rodeoing, or is there any single thing, or is it a variety of things?
It's just a variety, but I've learned long ago that I would have never been a good cowboy in the rodeo scene. It's a tough life these men and women have.
John, we appreciate you taking a few minutes to talk with us, and I hope that folks at home have appreciated learning a little bit more about one of our board members. And this is what, your second or third term on the board?
I'm on my 3rd term now.
Third term
Yeah.
now.
And I've really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. I enjoy, several years ago when we used to have a mass of buses coming in, they'd call on the board of directors to see if we couldn't help volunteer. And it's just fun to communicate with people from across America. And one of the humorous stories was this lady comes up to me, and of course I was in my cowboy gear. She says, "Are you a real cowboy?" I says, "You need to define what you mean by real cowboy." Well, yes, I do ride a horse, and I do have cows.
Cowboy John Nelson with us this week, this month, I should say. John, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you again.
Yeah, you bet.